Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, Keeper Jeannie. How are you? It's Sunday. Sunday means we're doing the celestial briefing, and we'll do an energy check-in as well. We'll see what's happening with the living sky throughout the week. So this is not based on tropical. The stuff that I'm talking about will come across a little bit off. I know that in mainstream astrology, they're talking all about all this Aries energy, but that's not what the living sky is showing us. And so I like to work with what is actually happening in our sky. I like to consult the true sky, the living sky. Like I said. So hello, hello. Hi, Renee. Hello. How are you? How are you? Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is share because sharing is caring, and let some people know that we're live. Oh, I have my patio door open, letting some fresh air come in, and oh my goodness. It's just lovely. Just lovely. How are you? How are you? How's your day going? Are you having a good Sunday? Okay, I think that's good. Hello, hello. How are you? Itchy nose. Alrighty. How are you? We're going to talk, like I said, we're going to do an energy check-in with some tarot cards. I'm going to as well do a check-in with the energies for the upcoming week. So it's the celestial check-in. That's what we're doing right now, is the celestial briefing is what I call it. Learning how to walk with the living sky. It's being, hello, hello. Just giving it a second for some of the followers to show up. All right, that's good enough. We've shared it. It's perfect. Okay, so let's start with the energy check-in. We're going to be using, or I'm going to be using, the Ethereal Tarot deck. The Ethereal Tarot deck is a custom deck that I created. It is, hi, Marichi. I don't know if you're here or I just saw you come in. Haha, salut. How are you? Buenos dias. I have to take lessons. I need to take lessons. I really do. Right? I need to take lessons. If you don't use it, you lose it. It's the truth. And it's been too long since I've been anywhere where I would be speaking and having and like conversing. And conversing is how you get it. I remember when I was in Costa Rica, and it was very much they wanted you to speak it. They wanted you to speak it. Maybe because it was humorous to see how we would say the words, but we had sunshine today. We had sunshine today, which was lovely. Okay, let's see what the energy is for the collective. Thank you so much for supporting me and being such a long time watcher. I appreciate you, Marichi. Buenos dias. So let's see what is coming up for the energy for the collective at this time. Can I get a good message, Spirit, from the cards? And maybe it'll be different than the timeless tarot readings that I've been doing. I gotta get that one, went way far away. Way far away. Like almost all the way down to my dog. All right, we have one card. What else? I probably should have left it there. 444 on the time there. But all right, what else for the collective? Even if we look at this card, This card is the Four of Air, and this is about reflection. So I really do think that a lot of society is pulling back into a space where they're really starting to be more introspective. They're starting to really consult the person within, as opposed to, you know, trying to get the answers from people external to them, or, you know, they're not. It's long since, I think, guru and you know, like, we used to have so many people that thought that the government would save you, or that the church would save you, or religion would save you, or all these things. But because of what's coming out now, we're realizing that, you know, we have to go within and consult ourselves, and, you know, do the healing journey, and then also sit with the information that we're being given all the time, because a lot of the information that we're being given is not accurate at all, right? And as the illusion falls, that's this energy here, that very reflective, mentally reflective energy. And we'll talk about the planets and how, you know, this, where the sun and moon and all the other planets are this week, and any of the transitions that are going to occur. And I'll tell you how they end up proving, really, or confirming would be another way to put it, confirming the cards. All right, so the Four of Water, not air, water. I did say air a moment ago. The Four of Water, so this is emotional, right? The Four of Water asks you to be present with your emotions, but not to dwell in stagnation. We've been dealing with a lot of energies out there right now, a lot of truths that are being revealed that are affecting us on a very emotional level, and it makes sense that that's the case, right? It makes sense that we are going to be feeling emotionally all the stuff that's going on out there, whether it's what's going on in Iran or it's what's going on anywhere else, right? There's stuff that's going on around the world that is affecting the energy. And it's just another example. Thank you, Zarina. It's just another example of how unity consciousness works, or how interconnected we are. What happens to us here affects people over across the world, and simultaneously the reverse is the same. When there's stuff going on in the other side of the world, when there's tragedies going on, when people are being harmed, when all of that's happening, we feel that within our nervous system. And a part of it is so that we can transmute that grief, transmute that energy, but we don't get taught that. What we've got taught instead is that's just your feelings. And we probably spiral a little bit because we don't know why we're feeling all of these things. The stuff that's coming out with within mainstream, you know, and not even mainstream, because that's not necessarily the case. There's a bunch of files that came out. There's a new story that's blooming that if I say the number 62 million, most people would understand what I mean. And if you don't know when I say the number 62 million, it's a story that you're probably going to be aware of soon. But you know, all of this stuff coming out is very traumatizing for society, and we aren't meant to hold this much terror, this much horror, this much grief, this much depravity, right? Our souls aren't meant to handle that. So luckily enough, many of us knew prior to, and so we are the emotionally stabilized ones that are prepared for the information because we knew it. Now, that doesn't mean that when the information comes out, those of us that knew about all this stuff beforehand weren't affected emotionally, because we absolutely were. I was, and I think a lot of what we ended up experiencing was, well, now that the information's out there, like this information is out there, like everybody has to wake up now. And it was a shock to find out that no, they didn't. They actually did not necessarily need to wake up at that time. Everybody has their breaking point. It's the same thing in everybody's ascension journey. And our ascension journey typically starts with us and our traumas, or it starts with our awareness of truth. So we're starting to remember the truth of things. And so you're either going through one pathway or the other pathway, but at the end of the day, you have to go through both pathways, right? You have to awaken to the truth of who and what you are and how you're meant to live. And you also need to awaken to who you truly are beneath all the layers of trauma and the truth of that, right? The truth of that you are deserving, you are valuable, you are worthy, you've always been perfect, you've always been enough. the traumas that happened to you. I hope that you can get past them. I really do. I was going to go into a different thing, but I'm like, nope. I talked extensively on my last live about trauma and gave a bunch of soothing practices that you could use within that. And so you can check out that. But we're going to continue on. So right now it's the emotional aspect of things that we're coming to terms with what we're seeing. And so this is a time for you to really listen to your heart, to recognize the beauty that is in the world and apply your focus to those things. The more that we put our attention on the truth and the truth of how we're meant to live, let's say. So the more of us that awaken to that and the more of us that put our attention on that, the sooner that other people are going to start to be aware and also put their attention on it. And it just continues. It becomes a wave, right? So we're supposed to be staying open to something, because when we create that capacity within our nervous system, when we work through whatever it is that we're facing at that time, and we get to the point where we can stay peaceful or we can stay calm in chaos, right? Like that's a powerful thing to learn, because you become this amazing energy source for the world, for Gaia, for everything around you. Because when there's stuff going on, you're not putting your powerful energy on like the fear and sitting in that fear energy and feeding the system with more fear. You're staying in that beautiful positive energy, and that is 1,000 times more powerful than fear. To stay in that state of love and universal love. So when we're doing that, when we grow through our experiences, if we use something that's a conflict as a crucible for transformation, or if we do something, like we come to terms with, let's say you've been struggling financially, and typically when you struggle financially, you get really scared, you get nervous, you start clamping down on things, you start becoming reactionary, if that's your go-to. But this time, say you're not doing so well financially, but you're staying very calm and you're just trusting, you're staying in that very calm space of, I trust that I am doing the right things. I'm trusting that everything, and you just stay in that trust space. Because you're working through that, the system rewards you. And that's what this card is saying. Because of that emotional growth that you go through, that mastery of growth, you get that level up and something comes in that can be of a reward. Okay, someone was asking me to join a live. I don't want to do that. Okay, let's see what else is there for the collective. I might pull from a couple different decks though. I do have other decks that I have created. I've showcased before the 44 Keys of the Way Oracle deck. I love this deck. One of the things that I like to get people to do is embodiment, right? Because if you just have information, it's just information. You have to actually live it. You have to actually embody the truth of that, right? So if you could know that, cigarettes are terrible for you and continue to smoke, or you could embody the truth of they're terrible for you and quit smoking, right? Which would make sense, because once you know that it's as bad as it is for you, you shouldn't want to do it anymore, because you should love and care about yourself and want, to be healthy. So you would abstain from something that's known to be unhealthy for you, as an example. But it's all of those things. Okay, so we've got 2 cards from the 44 Keys of the Way. And within the 44 Keys of the Way, the first card is number 10, and this is the Light of Discernment, which is perfect because we're talking about emotions. So remembrance. Discernment is felt before it is explained. The body registers alignment and misalignment quickly. Trust grows by checking and choosing repeatedly. Clarity compounds with use. So the practice is to present 2 options, feel each one in the body, and then choose the one that feels steady, not urgent. It's going to feel very calm and grounded in your body. And I was going to say, with the emotions, right? When we are under emotional distress or we're overwhelmed emotionally, it's very hard for us to feel things within our body because we're feeling other stuff. So when you are dysregulated or, emotionally out of your alignment, then it's going to be harder for you to register in your body what is in alignment with you. So this is a powerful thing to move through those emotions. Understand that you're experiencing the emotion, allow the emotion to flow freely, and then move beyond that emotion as quickly as you can. Because we don't want to be sitting in that, say, fearful energy, as an example. The longer that we're sitting in that, all we're doing is saying, I want more of this, right? Whatever you're experiencing, you're saying, I want more, because you're applying your attention to it. And it's also the frequency that you're resonating out into the environment. And like is looking for like. It's just magnetizing that same. Because you want to have those experiences. And so the body is saying, I'm feeling fear. And because your mind is also corroborating, I'm feeling fear. And, you're sitting within that space, then you're going to be calling that fearful stuff towards you more and more. So the affirmation for the light of discernment is, I trust my ability to sense the truth. And the truth is felt. It's not in the brain, it's felt in the body. So it's important to clear your trauma, to have emotional regulation or techniques that you can use so that you can soothe yourself, so that you can move beyond those tough emotions or the emotional overwhelm and back to that stable, calm space. This way here, you're going to be making informed decisions, or decisions that are clear to you, or you're going to be able to discern when something is true or not. And that's why fear gets pumped into us so much, because the more that we're in fear, the less that we can be clear. And when we're making decisions and otherwise, it just hijacks your whole system. All right. The second card that came out from the 44 keys of the way is the sacred service. And the affirmation is, my gifts support the well-being of others. Hello, sister. How are you, love? Remembrance. Service is expression, not sacrifice. It flows from capacity. Sustainable service requires boundaries. So the practice: offer one useful action, do it cleanly, do not seek validation, right? And many of us are out there, we were acting the hero, right? And it's like the phone, look at me and all the things I'm doing, right? And it's like, it's not a genuine, like, what are you doing when the cameras are off? Are you still that same person? Are you still helping people? And, some people will be, well, at least they're helping. Like, let's say they're cleaning up something and they're taking pictures of it and they're kind of monetizing it. Well, at least they're still cleaning up. But sometimes, the show is completely false. And what we need to be doing is making sure that it's coming from a generous space. Okay. Sorry. I thought the curtain blew and I thought my dog got outside, and I was like, oh no. Oh no. Hi, Annika. Thank you so much for liking the live. I appreciate you. And thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you for hanging out. So we feel it in our body, the truth. Service. We were talking about service. Okay. So I'll give an example of this. I have a perfect example of sacred service and like how one works and one doesn't work. So I used to do a lot of stuff for free on my channel, but I didn't have any boundaries with it. Because I was operating under the idea of if I helped enough people, it would come back to me somehow. Somewhere, somehow, it would come back to me. Hi, sweetheart. TD. Thanks for joining the crew. So I would just give and give and give in the hopes that it would return to me. And that's what a lot of people do when they're over giving. They're giving because they're really hoping to receive. And they think that if they give enough, then it will come back to them either, through the law of return, like karma somehow. But what you don't realize is sometimes you're tying yourself up in karma stuff because you are over giving, or you're giving in situations where you shouldn't. But at the very least, you're displaying that you don't have boundaries. So I had to learn those boundaries initially because the service wasn't sacred. There was in the back of my mind that I'm doing this in the hopes that, I do receive financial, like somebody buys my services, right? It's like I'm doing it, but at the end of the day, I'm a business owner. Of course, I want people to buy my stuff. That's not the reason why I'm doing it. It's not my focus. Like it's my passion, it's my purpose. I can't imagine doing anything else, right? Except for what I'm doing. Sorry, I was getting another invite to join a live. So now I do have a nonprofit that I own. It's Hugs for Homeless. And, I do publicize a lot of stuff for that. But the reason why I do that is because we are building a community, we're building a mission. And, I need to be advertising for that because we need donations. Donations are extremely important, and we need to build volunteers, and, you need to do that stuff to get it out there. But I'm not doing this for any kickback for me in that way. I'm doing it because I had a plan for years to help the homeless. And when I was a child, I experienced it a couple of times. And, we were lucky that when we did experience it, we experienced it in the warmer months. And we ended up in a camping situation, but we didn't have a home to go back to. So like we were homeless. We just, as children, it didn't bother us as much because like swimming, fishing, camping, like my brother and I were pretty outdoorsy. So, we didn't mind that so much, but you did know that you didn't have that place. So for me, I knew that I had those experiences, and, and there's been times as an adult, like where, especially with my company, there were so many times with my company where it was like, people just weren't buying stuff. I was giving stuff away. I was doing all kinds of stuff and people weren't buying anything. And I was just like, why? I don't understand everything. Like the people that would work with you would be like, that's awesome. You're great. But I just couldn't. And it's all those things that you have to work through. It's all the boundary issues. It's the worth issues. It's all of those things to get to that point. But sustainable service does require boundaries. And when you are operating from a generous space, it's not because you're going to get anything back from it. And a lot of us operate from that almost transitional or transactional way, where I'll do something for you, but only because I'm going to get something back from that. All right, let's see. I have this other deck of cards that I'm creating. Now, I don't have any pictures for it. I'm in the process of doing the pictures. I have 11 done at this point. It's a 66 card deck, and it is called Return to Center, which is the same name as my 10-day self-paced program that I have that returns you to center. It returns you to the present moment. It returns you to yourself. It returns you to the truth. It's got a whole bunch of practices that you can do in it, and like a whole bunch of bonuses. But so this is based on that. One of the things that I have done for a long time is trauma work. And I used to remember back in those days, Crystal, when it was trauma talk. And I was hitting hard with trauma talk. And, I would give you all these hard hitting facts, and I would talk about like healing and all of that stuff. And then somebody had come along at one point and said they didn't like trauma talk. It was triggering. It was, and so I decided to change it, and I ended up changing it to divine healing, which I think a lot of people got confused because they thought it was like something like heavenly or whatever. I just meant aligned with your origin, like it's the way you should heal, the things that we should be doing for our bodies. We should be listening to sound frequencies. We should be doing meditation. We should be, eating clean. We should be drinking good water. Like there's all kinds of things. We should be getting sunlight. We should be doing movement, right? Exercise. We should be doing all of these things. So anyway, I created this deck of cards that goes along with the trauma and nervous system work that I've done. And And I'm also changing the name of my trauma program to Return to Self. That's what Bridge Light Phase 1 is the return to self. And then Bridge Light Phase 2 is where you become the embodied self. But anyway, those are just naming changes. So there's no pictures. There's just the writing on the card. So the card that I pulled from the Return to Center deck is from the awareness section. And the awareness section is you are anticipating instead of experiencing. And what that means is that you are ahead of the moment. And a lot of us do this. We live out in the future. right? It's all the things in the future that we're going to be doing. We have conversations in our head. We'll be walking down the road or walking in the woods or, whatever. And in our heads, we're 3 days out having a conversation with somebody or thinking about that thing that we have to do, or, we're back but in this case, we're ahead of the moment. So attention is pulled into imagined future instead of what is actually happening right now. I don't know if this is going to be too hot yet. But I got a little tickle there. I almost waited too long and it really, really would have got bad. Okay. So your attention is pulled into an imagined future instead of what is actually happening right now. And what this does is increases your anxiety and it reduces present information, like the present moment information, because you're not in the present moment. So think about how many times you're driving and you don't remember your drive home because you were that lost in your thoughts. So you don't even recall what you were doing, right? You don't remember it. And that's because your body took over on autopilot. Like you probably did all the right things, or hopefully, right? But your brain was probably off in la la land, and whether that was in the past or in the future, but in this case, it's in the future. So the embodiment practice is to ask yourself, what is happening right now? And what you want to do at that point is just write down the observable facts. Just the facts, not what you're feeling, not what you're assuming, not what you're mind reading or fortune telling, none of that. You just want the facts. Just the facts, man. Hi, Myersad. And you're going to repeat this once. Okay. So you write it down. What is happening right now? The facts. And okay. This is powerful when you're in a moment where, like, if your brain's racing off into fear land and racing off into the future, that is a great way to pull yourself back, because a lot of times, like I said, we're making assumptions, or we're fortune telling, or we're mind reading. Yeah, that's what they meant. That's what they were saying. That's why they did that. I know everything, right? I know why they made blah, 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 blah. And sometimes we don't even realize it, but we aren't even accurate. Like, our perception is skewed because of our trauma. It goes through the pinball machine of your brain and it spits it out and it says, okay, this is what you saw and heard and felt and seen and all of that stuff, even if it's not the stuff that you saw or heard. And they did a study on this. And the study that I'm referring to is they did a study where they took all of these women and they put all these disfigurements. They put, like, for each of the women, they put a disfigurement on their face. And what the researchers told the ladies that they were doing is they were studying the reaction of individuals in, like, the interviewers' reaction to having interviewees come in with facial disfigurations. That's what the women thought that they were doing. But this was one of those double-blind trial kind of things. But it was the women that did the study weren't doing what they thought they were doing. So anyway, right before the women went to go in, like, they would show them they do all their makeup in front of the mirror. And then just before they go in for the interview, the makeup artists come over and say, we just need to do a little touch up. We have a little touch up that we need to do, or, whatever, because you've been sitting there for a while, the makeup's starting to wear off, like, we've got to touch it up. And this time the women would not get to see themselves and they would take the makeup off. So they never had any disfigurement. These women would go into the interview and then they would come out and they would report what they had seen, heard, felt, all of that stuff. And the women came out and they would say, oh, they made these facial expressions. They were rude. They said this or they said that, and did this whole report. And every single woman reported that the interviewers treated them disrespectfully in some way. They either had a facial expression, a tone, said something, whichever it was. So every single woman reported that. They then showed the women the videos, and not not any disfigurement. And when they watched the videos, they realized that nobody said what they said. Nobody did the expressions that they said. Nobody, had the tone or any of it. It was all fabricated in their mind because of how they perceived, how they would react in that situation. And it's just mind blowing when you think about that you can hear things, see things, or feel things about somebody else when you're not even experiencing them because of the preconceived bias that you have, or the way that your nervous system is, handling it, or your traumas and how that is framing your experience, which is, it's unbelievable to think, right? So it's a powerful thing to say to yourself, like, what am I feeling? And a lot of the cognitive distortions that we have, like a couple of them is how I was saying, mind reading, fortune telling, right? It's all in that assumption category. Like, I know why they did that, or I know what they're thinking, or I know what they're doing right now, right? Your friends go out and they don't, and you have, say, 2 friends, and the 3 of you get together and do things. But in this situation, they don't ask you to go out, but the 2 of them get together. And you're sitting at home and, I guess they don't like me. I wasn't what I did. Was it something that I said? Was it something that I did? And you start speculating on like all the reasons why one or both could hate you, or like why they wouldn't invite you. Meanwhile, maybe they're getting together to plan a birthday party or a surprise or something like that, right? Or maybe it's something that's like really, really private, but the other person knows, right? Like 2 women who share that they don't have a front tooth, right? That could be something that is, shared between those 2 people. And that's a camaraderie, and maybe they want to talk about it, let's say, as an example. It could be something crazy like that. You never know. But we do like to fill in the blanks, and we like to assume things. And that's to confirm maybe something that we have on the inside, right? Maybe we don't think that we're good enough. Maybe we don't think that we're a great friend or worthy of having as a friend. Maybe we haven't been a great friend, and we feel like we could we should, maybe they should be getting together without us because we haven't been the friend that they should have had. So it's all of that stuff is how this card, this anticipating rather than experiencing, is. How are you guys doing? How are you doing, Crystal? She's like, I'm clean and listening to you because you talk fast. You talk about a lot of stuff, and and that gives me time to clean and do all kinds of things. Oh yeah, I have to remember to do that. I'm going to write myself a note right now, because if I don't, I'll forget again. Hello, Cass. All right. So what I wanted to write down was, perfect. I know. You're just doing your thing, listening to me, and that's that. It's okay. Alrighty, so now we're going to talk about the celestial lineup for the next week. Okay, and we'll talk about other things as it goes, because it'll conjure up, I'm sure, lots of conversation stuff. Okay, so we're going to look at what's happening as the planets transition through all of the different signs, and what that means for us energetically. And I'm going to set my computer up in the right order and put my comments on that side. Perfect. I did that. And what else did I do? What else did I do? That's what I did. All right. Perfect. Hi, Nicole. How are you? Where are you from? Hi, Ollie. Say hi and where you're from. Okay, so we're going to talk about the celestial lineup. What are the planets doing for the week? This is walking the sky, and this is the actual living sky. I'm fantastic. Nice. I have lots of friends down in the States. But yeah. Yeah, my brain just went like, I was thinking about the planets and then I was thinking about the states. Oh, and I think that's what I was going to say. So when I'm talking about these transitions, it doesn't matter where you are. You can consult the Living Sky app. You can consult Stellarium, any planetary app, and you will find that this is the location of the planets. I use theskylive.com. So anytime that you want to confirm anything that I'm saying, just go to theskylive.com and it will show you everything that I'm talking about. So the other thing that I do is I do not like to include the distortions in stuff. I like to clear that out. So what I like to talk about when I mention distortion is the energy of Virgo. So Virgo is the great refiner. Virgo likes to continually refine things because that's how you become a master. In mainstream astrology, though, Virgo is highly critical. It is perfectionism. Like, it has all these negative connotations put into it, which are not accurate. That tickle did not want to go away. So I would challenge you to look at what your chart is like in true sidereal, because that would most likely move you one sign over. Now, it doesn't always do that. And the reason why is because the signs do not occupy the same space in the sky. And that's what mainstream astrology doesn't do. One, mainstream astrology was frozen in time 2,000 years ago. Two, it removed the 13th sign of Ophiuchus and a bunch of other things. So yesterday, or sorry, on the 17th, we celebrated a new moon, and everyone was all new moon in Aries, but the moon was still in Pisces, right? So even the sun was still in Pisces. We just became Aries season on the 19th or 18th, sorry, the 18th. So we just had these two things happening. And right now everyone's talking about how all this energy in Aries. But when I look at the sky, and I have the thing up right now, the sun is in Aries right now. The moon is in Taurus. Mercury is in Cetus, and we can talk a little bit about Cetus. It's a constellation that the planets go into. So they'll be in Pisces, and they go out of Pisces into Cetus, and then back into Pisces, and then into Aries. There's another one that's in there as well, but I'll talk about that when it comes up. So we have Venus is in Taurus. Mars is also in Cetus. And Saturn is in Cetus. Uranus is in Taurus. Neptune is in Pisces. And then Pluto is in Capricorn. So the planets are in a much different space than what we stated, or what the mainstream astrology is stating. Now, I'll talk a little bit about Cetus as it applies to things, but yeah, we'll go through everything. We'll go through everything. We'll talk about how it's all going to go. All right. So what I want you to do first, though, hi Thumper, how are you? And hi Annika. What I want to do first, though, is I just want you to get into your body. I just want you to notice your system. Okay. How does your system feel right now? When you check in with your body, do you feel loud? Do you feel quiet? Do you feel, I don't know. Yeah, I was for 20 plus years. I had a wonderful nursing career. I did a variety of different things. Most specifically, I worked as an RN in emergency. I was a flight nurse for 7 years, flew around the world. I worked as an occupational health nurse. I worked for Gilead as an occupational health nurse, and that's a major pharmaceutical company. I worked for that thing, and I was a manager. I went into management probably when I was 7 years, 5 to 7 years, somewhere in there. I went into management and never looked back. And I managed the emergency department. I was the director of nursing for a hospital and long-term care, bunch of different things. And then I decided to leave that and help people with trauma and mental health. after doing my healing journey. And so then I started doing all kinds of courses and specializations in trauma, somatic healing, all kinds of stuff, energy healing. I am master quantum regression and integration therapist, a lot of things, a lot of things. And so I help people with healing, which is one part, right? One part of the ascension is the trauma and shadow work. And then the other part of the ascension process is the truth and living embodied. So I do both of those things is what I teach, but I also do astrology and tarot readings because I like doing those things. Nice. Love it. Love it. Yes, it was beautiful. Love it. Love it. Look at these long-term care. I did. I looked after when I was the director of nursing, I was the hospital and long-term care. We had a 105 bed long-term care facility. And I also looked after a 14 bed unit, acute care, the emergency department, and the palliative beds that we had. I also would sometimes look after the OR when the OR nurse was on leave, and stuff like that, but had responsibilities of the entire hospital staff. I was the accreditation lead, IPC lead, occupational health and safety. We just kept getting titles put on us. Like, it just, the jobs just became like, it's just crazy. It's crazy. You know how it is. You know how it is. I used to say in nursing, like, it was that you'd be walking around and you had your plate and you would get used to what you had on your plate of responsibilities. And as soon as you got used to that plate of responsibilities, they'd be like, oh, look at you juggling everything so nicely. Have some more. And then you'd struggle with that for a little bit. Then you start to get comfortable with it. You start to manage, you figure things out. You'd like work things around, tweak it here, tweak it there, whatever, put in a few extra hours a week. And then they'd see you managing that and they'd be like, oh, good, you can take more now. And they'd give you something else, right? And you're like, what? And then somebody would try to take your job after, like, when you were ready to leave your job, and they'd come in and they'd be like, there's no way not one person can't do this. There's no way one person can do this. This is not right. I love it. Love it. Such a powerful thing. Did you hear what they said about Alzheimer's and dementia, about it being diabetes? That's just diabetes of the brain. Oh, that's cool. Hi. Yep. Type 3 diabetes. All the sugar. They proved it with the rats, because if you put a rat in a bucket of water, he immediately finds the exit. But when they give him a whole bunch of sugar and basically the same kind of thing as an American diet, they can't find their way out of it. It's crazy. They just they lose their brain capacity. It's crazy. Look at us. It's such a powerful thing. Right? It's such a powerful thing. Nothing more important than saving a life, and whether you're saving it through the little measures that you're doing day after day after day after day, right? Then that's a powerful thing, right? Oh yeah. No, like cholesterol, like there's a lot of things, but Alzheimer's was specifically what they were talking about, like was the one what they were calling basically type 3. But I agree that there's more complexities to it. Have you ever looked into AO scanner? And the reason why I ask is because I had a friend who does AO scanner, and she used it on her mom with dementia, and her mom like got a lot back. Oh, wait, cool. That's awesome. So are you in Ontario then? Because I asked, because I believe that they're, yep, parasites, absolutely. We should all be doing parasite cleanse. Yeah, I'm originally from Ontario. That's where I started out working as a nurse. And then I moved to Alberta and spent the rest of my career in Alberta before going back to Ontario with my company and then coming back to Alberta. I just move around a lot for sure. All right, so let's do our roll call. Let's check in on anything. I already went through and did it really quickly. So the moon this week, though, is going to be moving from itchy nose. Sorry, I have my wrong. I have the wrong notes. I have the wrong notes. I was a little bit confused. I'm like, why is it saying Aquarius? There's no Aquarius right now. All right, where are my notes? There we go. Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo. That's the moon. That's the moon. Oh, lovely. That's where my son is and my grandsons. Oh, I would love to go there and visit them soon. All right, so let's talk about the planets. Let's talk about what we're going to be experiencing energetically, and so that we can know what we're dealing with. So like I said, we have the sun in Aries, we have Mercury in Cetus, but it is going to move into Pisces later this week. We have Venus in Taurus. We have Mars also in Cetus, which is going to move into Pisces later this week. We have Jupiter in Gemini. We also have Saturn in Cetus, but I'm going to just focus. I'll talk about maybe Saturn in Cetus. But anyway, we have Uranus in Taurus, Neptune in Pisces, Pluto in Capricorn. And as I said, the moon starts in Taurus. On the 21st, it goes into Gemini. On the 23rd, Cancer. And the 24th, Leo. All right. We also just experienced a new moon in Pisces, although mainstream was saying it was a new moon in Aries. When you look at the living sky, it was not. It was still in Pisces. So let's acknowledge that. What that means is when we have a new moon, and especially if it was a new moon in Aries, that new moon is going to be like initiatory energy. That's a new moon where you're taking action and it's like, let's go. But it wasn't an Aries season yet. It was still in Pisces. So that's a different energy, right? Pisces is introspective, integrative, emotional, healing. It's a much different energy than Aries. So Pisces new moons are not new moons that you push forward. It's a new moon for you to reflect on what is everything that I've been learning? What is everything that I've been doing? What is everything that I've been experiencing? What is it that I'm healing? What do I need to let go of, right? What's not aligned to me? So that's where we culminate all of our experience, and from the whole year, from whatever the cycle we're in, it culminates in Pisces. And that's where we integrate it and then move forward, Aries, a fresh start. So that's the dissolving. And that's what that new moon was asking us to do, was just finish dissolving the stuff from Pisces season before we step into that new Aries season. And if you're not... if you haven't fully integrated the clearing of what you're doing, then you have to act. You have to deal with that first, because otherwise you're going to be acting too quickly and it's just going to pull you out of alignment. So you want to make sure that you're clearing everything and then moving from that space of clarity, as opposed to in that space where you're just think that you have to move really fast. And that's what mainstream would have us do, is think that we have this big Aries energy, and that Aries energy is pushing us all to just go, that passion, that fire, more passion, more fire, more energy, right? That's the energy that they're pushing with everything being in Aries, and also anger, right? Because that's what mainstream represents Aries as. Aries is like initiatory. Aries is forward motion. Aries is passionate. But it's not rage. Like it's just what mainstream would like us to believe. And that's because when we adopt the label, we take all the pieces of it. So if we think that I'm Aries, then you give yourself the right to be, blunt and rude, or, to get really angry and fly off the handle and be passionate. You give yourself a reason to be that because you say I'm Aries, and that's what Aries is like. So that's why those types of labels are harmful. And we have to be careful with those. Okay, now we are with the sun in Aries officially. So happy Aries season. Nice. Yeah, you might not be Sagittarius if you looked at it in true sidereal. In true sidereal, you're Cancer. I love that. That's so beautiful. I love my Cancer energies, like my Cancer friends. So the Aries sun now, it brings that initiatory energy. And because we did the work that we were supposed to do in Pisces season, that means that we have clarity, and now we're going to take action on that clarity. And the energy of Aries is very much, there's a desire to not wait. Aries is very quick action. It wants to start. It wants to go, right? And we have to recognize, though, that just because the sun is in Aries doesn't mean that everything is in Aries, because it's not, right? We have very little in Aries right now. I think it was the sun and Venus Venus is in Taurus now. So that's the only thing that we have in Aries is the sun right now. So there's a whole lot of other energies at play. And a lot of that is Pisces and Cetus energy, right? Which we'll talk about as we go. So we want to make sure that that we're taking the impulse of Aries and grounding it, because otherwise it's just going to be reaction as opposed to taking grounded action, right? And we want that grounded action. All right, let's talk about these moon. Because remember, the moon is the emotional landscape, and this is the emotional landscape that everybody is going to be experiencing energetically. But you also have your own moon, and your moon is going to be how you process emotions. It's your link to memory and ancestors and all of that. So it's worth finding out what the true sidereal chart is for you. And if you're interested in that, I do readings at my website, and I have a contest going on right now. Ooh, good time to segue into that. I started a contest today, and the contest is really simple. I put out a post. You have to like it. You have to comment which reading you would like to be included in, because I am giving a birth natal chart in True Sidereal, which is valued between $88 and $122, depending on like the extras. And I'm also giving away an Etherian Tarot reading that's valued at $111. So you have to say either you want the astrology or you want the tarot. So like, follow, and comment whether or not you want that. But if you want a bonus entry, you can get a bonus entry if you share it to your story and tag me in your story, right? So that's the contest that's going on, and it's only until Friday. Friday night at 8 p.m. I'm going to award the winner, and one winner will get the reading and of the astrology reading, and one winner will get a tarot reading. So there's two prizes. Very cool. All right. So let's talk about our emotional landscape and what everybody's going to be experiencing. We start today with the energy in Taurus, and we have Taurus today and tomorrow before it goes into Gemini on the 21st. So Taurus is a very grounded energy emotionally, and this is the most stable energy in the emotional space. All of the earth energies are. Capricorn can come across a little bit more detached emotionally because Capricorn's like that dad energy. Taurus is really grounded, but because Taurus is also ruled by, I like to say, the cow, not the bull, because the cow was revered and thought of as abundant and all this other stuff. And that's really the energy of Taurus. Right? Taurus knows its worth. It's very grounded. It's connected to, Mother Gaia. It's very earthy, just beautiful energy. Loves comfort and luxury. So Taurus begins though. So our emotions are very real right now. We know what's real. We feel very stable in our emotions. We know what holds. So even though Aries might want us to move, Taurus is going to be like, but is this really stable? Is this really like, is this really long-term? Is this really a good foundation? Right? It's going to be asking us those questions. So we're not ready yet to start running. It's going to be a little bit before that. Then Gemini comes in next. And so on the 21st, the moon moves into Gemini. Well, Gemini is an air sign, and Gemini is about mental processing. So now we're going to take our emotions more into the mental or logical space, right? We're going to be processing our emotions. We're going to be thinking about our emotions. We're going to be talking about our emotions because Gemini loves to talk. And the reason why we're going to be doing this is because we're trying to understand what's happening, right? But we have to be careful because This is where people can overthink, right? Gemini can be, let's go over it, let's go over it. And if you are continually going over something, that is as affirming to yourself that you don't trust yourself or that you doubt yourself. So it's an example of self-doubt. The more that you have to go over something before you make a decision is just evidence of a lack of trust or, like I said, self-doubt within yourself. So you have to be careful with Gemini that you don't overthink it and then get yourself confused or foggy over it. You just want to get clear and process the emotion. And then we get to Cancer, and Cancer is water energy, and that is emotion. And Cancer is the mom energy. Cancer is nurturing, protective, and it's beautiful energy. It takes you a while to get inside the Cancer space, but once you're in there, and like you're protected along with the rest of everybody. It's like you're part of the brood. But if you're inside and you do something, you will be punted out of there. And then you risk the wrath of Cancer because they've got the claws for a reason, right? Like don't mess with their home. Don't mess with their family. It's a very protective energy, which the mom has to be, just like the dad has to be. So Capricorn has that same very protective energy, but it comes in a different way. So Cancer brings the emotion. This is where you get to the truth through the feeling. And this is where things also are going to become very personal. So we hit Cancer on the 23rd. So on the 23rd, that's when we're going to phase into the Cancer energy. So we're going to be more emotional then, and it might feel more personal. And this is also where the decisions are going to matter because now you're emotionally invested in it too. So it really doesn't matter. Then at the end of this week, we move into Leo, and that is on the 24th because Cancer is a smaller sign than Leo. It occupies a smaller space within the celestial body, right? So Leo is expression. Leo shows up and Leo also moves forward. It's a fire sign, and this is about taking action. It's about passion and movement. And Leo is about the authentic expression. Leo can be prideful. When we are if you look at the way that I look at astrology, this is a little add-on that I like. I think of the mainstream astrology. When I look at myself in that, I see where I was when I was unhealed and when I had some, more toxic behaviors. Like I could see myself as, adopting some of the characteristics. I was a super Sagittarius then. So, I was hard truth Tanya, right? So it kind of went hand in hand with that blunt energy of telling the truth. I think that we identify more egoically with mainstream astrology. And when we start to do our spiritual journey and when we look at the true sidereal with as it would have been the living sky when we were born, I think then that's when we start to really identify with it in a different way. Just as an example. All right. So I'm Leo moon, and I know that if my feelings aren't validated or if I feel like I'm not validated, that's when my pride gets hurt and I can be very sad about things, right? So I know that about my Leo moon, that's the injury that you can have with that particular moon placement. So you have to be careful with that, right? And that's what knowing your signs and knowing your placements is a benefit of. This is just a benefit, right? It helps you. So then you can, and I love some of the stuff. Maybe we'll do that today. Which one would you like to know? Maybe we could look over the moon signs. I'll pull up my little cheat sheet on the moon signs and we'll go through all of them. But this would be if like under the true sign. So if you're using tropical, it typically moves by one sign, although that's not always a guarantee, but it typically does. So if you were a Leo, then you would become Cancer. If you were Cancer, you'd become Gemini. Like it typically goes like that. All right. So what we're doing now, it's with the Leo moon is what is expressed. It moved through grounding, understanding with the grounding with Taurus, understanding with Gemini, and feeling with Cancer. And now we're going to express it, right? So you can see how the energies work together. And as you start to watch things transition through each of the signs, you start to understand how you've seen that pattern collectively, that you've seen that pattern in your life, like historically. If you went back, you'd be like, yep, those are the cycles I went through. I need to drink more. Okay. So every episode I like to do like a teaching stream or something. Like I'm always giving you guys education because that's what I like to do. So what happens when you act too soon? Right? It creates that misalignment. And the reason why, like, you're acting from that level of impulse where there's this impulse to do something, but you skip the process of everything, right? And when you skip that process, that's when things don't hold. Like there's a step that you have to go through, right? It'd be like, I did this before. Oh my God, this is a great story. I was always physical, and I don't know, I was just like one of those students that I ran track and I got straight A's. And anyway, I used to run when I was in high school. I used to run 3 kilometers every morning before I went to school and stuff like that. And later on, I had kids. My kids were like 6 and 7. I was a nurse. I was no longer running every morning. I was no longer running. I was no longer like, I was just like normal, right? I didn't even have like a really good fitness program at that time. Nothing. And I just decided that I could run a 5K. They were having a run of breast cancer run, a 5K breast cancer run. And I was just like, yeah, I can do that. I ran track. I ran cross country. I did, I did all of those things. Yeah. You know what I did? I ran my 5K and I did get a good time, but then I couldn't walk for 3 days. Like I could not walk at all. I was in so much pain. I actually had to call in sick to work because I couldn't go to work. Like that's what impulse does, right? Like impulse says, yeah, I can do that, or I want to do that, so I'm just going to do it. But the process should have been to put my shoes on and like go for a little run, maybe track how far I was able to run without like do some running beforehand. I don't know, set a little like put a little plan in place of some sort, right? Like that would have been the smart thing to do, but no. I just decided to just injure myself instead. And I would do that all the time. I would jump in and be like, yeah, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to start working out. And I get all excited. And then I would go to kickboxing and I would work out so hard that I couldn't walk because I couldn't not do what everybody was doing. It was so ridiculous. So ridiculous. Oh, I forgot to look at my comments. I buried it a little bit. All right. So what you want to do is what this week is doing for us, which is saying ground it, understand it, feel it, then express it. So we want to do that with the planets, not what we typically might do, which is just to run on that beautiful, ooh, I'm inspired, or ooh, I've got an impulse, ooh, I've got, this Aries energy, ooh, let's go, right? But you're actually taking the time to think, okay, let's do this the right way. All right, so one of the things that we have is we have Mercury moving from Cetus into Pisces. And what this is going to do is shift the thinking from distortion clearing into intuition. And Mars is doing the same thing, which does that. It shows action moving from that disruption into more sensitivity. Venus in Taurus is asking us to stabilize our desires. Aries energy with Venus is very direct. I know what I want. I know what my desires are. And I'm very direct with it, right? That's the Venus Aries energy. But now we're in Taurus. So it's stabilizing what has longevity, what has the potential to last, right? And it's about stabilizing that passionate initiatory energy of Aries, but that very direct knowing energy. So what you want is becoming more grounded, is what it is with that Venus energy, and less reactive, because Aries can be reactive. It's fire. We have Jupiter in Gemini, and this is its home planet. So Jupiter in Gemini is expanding perspective. And I'm wrong. I'm sorry. It can be, but Jupiter is not. Jupiter is Mercury is Gemini's planet. It's like, no, wait, that's Sagittarius and Pisces, not the Sagittarius and Pisces are home to Jupiter. Gemini is home in Mercury. All right, so Jupiter in Gemini, it expands your perspective. So this is like, it's growth. It's also why we have the ability to move through some of the situations that we're experiencing, because we can understand someone else's perspective in a better way, which allows more compassion, perchance. I mean, we're not seeing that maybe collectively globally. It's looking more like a clown show in inverted world. But anyway, so then we've also got Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, which are continuing to ask you to live what you understand. So this is where we had that guru culture kind of falling, because Saturn is about responsibilities and karma and all of that stuff. And Pisces is spiritual, right? So it's asking you to be real spiritually. What are you embodying? Like, what are you living? I can feel the tickle right here. And if I could just clear it, it would be good. Okay. So we have Uranus in Taurus, which is continuing, because Uranus is about radical change, right? Like, it's the one that's all about this change. But Taurus is stable. So this is shifting what stability means, is how those two energies go together. So it's asking for, potentially a radical change in what you've determined is stability. And we're seeing that in the world, right? Like, your Uranus is a later planet. So this is a collective thing, right? This is collectively, that's what we're being asked, is what actually means, what does stability mean? What is true in that? I was like, I'm just going to take a sip before I go into the next section. And I'm very happy I have water too. Okay. So Pluto in Capricorn. We've been hearing all about this. It's the age of Aquarius, but it's not. Pluto is stationed in great big daddy Capricorn energy. And Capricorn is all about integrity. Capricorn went through death, rebirth. It was the phoenix rising. It got the direction of clarity with Sagittarius. And then you have Capricorn. And Capricorn says, okay, I know what's real. I died and was reborn again. And I know the truth. And it's what's after life and death. So Capricorn is about integrity. And Capricorn wants to build a solid foundation that is going to last as a legacy. So anyone that has that Capricorn energy, like, that's a very powerful energy. And I like to call it big daddy energy. And so it's restructuring all the foundational systems right now. That's what the Capricorn energy is doing. It is looking at every system and saying, is that built in integrity? And we're seeing finance fall. We're seeing like all kinds of things, the government, so like Hollyweird, all of that stuff, we're seeing it. And that's because Capricorn is saying, what has integrity for the next generation? And then we'll get it to Aquarius in 2040, I believe. And in 2040, Aquarius will then say, okay, now let's look, like, how can we do to make this for all of humanity? How can we make this innovative for generations to come? Like, and this is, like, more of humanitarian energy. But Capricorn is that integrity, that grounded stability, that dad energy. And we're doing that with all of the structures and foundations from Pluto. So the question this week is not, what do I want to do? The question is, what is actually ready to become real? So what are you ready to live, right? If you wanted to be a marathon runner, then you have to, at some point, start the training process. And that's all of it, right? And I talk to people all the time. When we know a truth and we choose to continue to live as we did before we knew that truth, what we are doing is consenting to whatever it is. So if I know that my McDonald's has human in it and I continue to eat it, then I am consenting to that, as an example. So I wanted to use something really weird. All right. So our embodiment practice, because I always do one every episode, our embodiment practice today is to ask yourself, what am I feeling an impulse to act on? Okay. So what are you feeling an impulse to act on? I have some things. Definitely have some things. So that's your first question. The second question that you're going to ask after that is, have you looked at this, or have you moved whatever that you want to act on? Have you moved it through grounding, understanding, and feeling? Or are you trying to move it too quickly, right? Are you getting clear with it, or are you rushing it? Because it could be that there's something underneath that's pushing that urgency. I used to be somebody trying, like, I'd have an idea. Oh my God, I'm going to create this course. And I mean, I'm sure Crystal can confirm, I would put it out really quick, right? I wouldn't sit with it. And is this really what I want to be doing right now? Is this really what I need to be starting right now? Is this, all of that energy? So let the answer be honest about what you're doing. Are you going through the process, grounding, understanding, feeling it, and then moving on what is real? Or are you just jumping on impulse, right? All right. Yeah, I did the embodiment practice. I was like, I did everything. I did all my notes. I covered all the notes. So yeah, this is what we do on Sunday nights. We go through the celestial alignment and what the energies are that we're going to be working with for the week, so we can get an understanding of what's coming at us, and so we can move through the phases instead of reacting to them. And we do all of this in the Temple of Light. It's completely free on my website. The link's in the bio. This is just something that we do, so you have the opportunity to live it consistently, right? And this is what we're meant to do, is live in harmony with Mother Gaia, harmony with the elements, harmony with each other, and harmony with the celestial bodies and all the planets. So this is the way that we do that, is just by being aware of the truth of the living sky, how it's moving, all of that stuff. I'm taking a sip early. Hello. So yeah, not everything that feels ready is ready. But once you honor the entire full process and move everything through that process, that's when things become stable, right? And that's all that we're needing to learn. All right. I'm going to give you a card if you'd like a card, love. Thumper. Maybe two of them even. These two. So this is from the 44 Keys of the Way Oracle. I paint these all in watercolor, the images on there. So the two that came out are the Inner Witness, which is this one here. And the affirmation is, I observe my life with clarity and compassion. The remembrance is, the witness sees without collapsing into the experience. This creates space between stimulus and response. From that space, wiser choices emerge. Compassion grows when you can see without judgment. Your practice is to name the emotion present, say, this is here, and then breathe with it for 60 to 90 seconds. The other card that came out is the Pilgrim, and the affirmation is, my life itself is a sacred journey. The remembrance, a pilgrim walks with intention and humility. Each step is meaningful, not rushed. Orientation matters more than speed. So the practice on this one is to walk for 10 minutes slowly and to count 20 steps at a time, and to reset if you lose count. I did this the other day in the country, like walking with my dog outside. I walk pretty fast, so it was a good practice for me to walk slow and then count my steps. So you just keep count to 20, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 20. And if you miss or mess up, then you just start back at 1, 2, 3, 4, 20 and just keep going and walk slow. Yeah, it just puts you more in the moment. It's a really, really, it was a good practice. It was a good practice, put it that way. I was gonna say it was challenging, but it wasn't actually challenging. So yeah, that's it for today for what I have to cover. On Wednesday, I had to think about what day it was. On Wednesday, I go live at 6 p.m. And on Wednesdays, it is embodied wisdom. And what that means is that we're going to talk about a lot of different things on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is, where we might talk about dimensions. We might talk about sound, or somatics. We might talk about the spine as antenna. We might talk about trauma. We might talk about shadow work. Like, we're going to talk about things that are covered within the awakening process, which, like did with my content or talked about it earlier. The awakening process goes through 2 different channels, right? One of the parts of awakening is healing your trauma and doing the shadow work and really returning to your truth, to the truth of yourself. And the other part of the awakening process is awakening to the truth of society, the truth of who and what we are and how we're meant to live, and the lies, like the truth about our origins. All of that stuff is the other part of the awakening process. So I cover topics that surround all of that, but from a real and practical way, because information is just information unless you live it. So in order for us to have it true and embodied, we have to actually live it. So it's important that no matter who you're working with, whether it's, whoever you're working with in spirituality and ascension and all of that stuff, they have to be guiding you towards your own sovereignty. Otherwise, they're a false light. That's the number one way to tell the difference between someone that you should be working with and someone that you shouldn't be working with. Are they guiding you to freedom, right? And you can look at the medical system in a lot of ways. Within the medical system, it's a cycle, right? It just keeps you in the cycle, going around and around and around. Here's your prescription. You're on your prescription for life. You might get another prescription in a few years, and you get another one and another one and another one, and eventually you just die. But you died with everything that you had the prescriptions for. They never cured anything. So, you have to look at that system and say that's not a functioning system, or that's not a healthy system, right? And I've, since leaving my career and where I was and all the things that I experienced in my career, I really call it sick care. Is it great for traumas? Absolutely. If you had an emergency and you got into a car accident, please go to the emergency department and be seen for traumas. But there's a lot of stuff we just know. We're starting to see the truth in the systems, all of them. And so that's what you have to do. You have to live your truth, right? When you find out that something's bad for you, you find out that something's unhealthy, you find out that something's a lie or an illusion or a deception or a manipulation. When you find those things out, you have to then say, I'm not going to do that anymore, right? If you found out that your Hollywood actor, is babies, then you need to stop any interaction with any of their stuff, right? Like, that's a part of the process of embodying the truth. And that's what I teach. That's what my content is all about. I do tarot readings. I make my own custom decks. I'm an author, published 20 times so far. So anyway, you can go check out those things, but do go check out the free Temple of Light and connect with me on my other socials. That way there you never lose me in case any of my accounts get banned or social media goes down. You can still catch me on my website because I post stuff there all the time. I have several membership groups, but anyway, do go sign up for that so you don't lose connection in the event that social media goes down. Yeah, that's it. That's all. That's all. Well, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. I'll be back Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain. I might end up making them all the same time because it gets a bit much to say 7 p.m. on Saturday, 6:30 p.m., 6 on Sunday, and 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday. I might just make them all the same time, but I'll be 6:30 p.m. this Wednesday. We'll see what happens then. All right, but you have a beautiful night. Thank you so much for joining me. Go check out that contest that is available right now. Like I said, you just have to like, follow, and comment whether you want an astrology reading or whether or not you want a tarot reading. If you want a bonus entry, you can share it to your story and tag me, and that will give you two opportunities to win. Anyway, that's it. Go check those things out. I love you guys. I will see you here on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Mountain time. So 8:30 p.m. Eastern. That's the only other time zone I work it for. 8:30 p.m. Eastern. All right. See you guys.